workshops, I was able to pay attention. Imagine like if you're in college in class, you don't have to sit down. I love it.
Call to order the Mental Health and Wellbeing Subcommittee meeting being held at George Romm Little Theater, Brockton High. Today is Tuesday, March 10, 2026. We are a little bit delayed due to technical issues. It is 6:10. I will establish a quorum. Mrs. Centeo?
Yes.
Mr. Pina? I'm sorry, Mr. Combs.
Here.
Love it, sorry, buddy. Mrs. Azak.
Here.
We also have Dr. Taliani here and Dr. LeBron here also with us, and we have a full room today. You can also watch this meeting, will be held and will be accessible to the public via Comcast Channel 8 and 107.1 HD version, and also online via the link www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. Welcome to the meeting, and we'll do number 3, overview of the available community-based supports. We'll have Christy Glenn from the Pinnacle Partnerships give us a presentation and talk about the partnership with Brockton and the school district.
So maybe just to set the stage, at the last meeting, there was dialogue, right?
Yes, there was.
Resources, so maybe Dennis, our director of wellness, needs to just sort of queue up people to take over. And I have to trust, I'm ready to go.
You ready to go with that clicker?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so as far back as 2020, when everything kind of went bad, I had the opportunity to work with Christy and Winnie from Pinnacle Partnerships and John Snellgrove from our social emotional learning department on we decided to create a community resource. And it was a resource booklet that supported some mental health resources for families and students and some food insecurity issues for families and students. And since that day, we have worked with Christy and Winnie and Pinnacle Partnerships to absolutely grow this program into, they provide teacher professional development for all of our health teaching staff in mental health first aid. They work with our students to provide mental health supports in team mental health first aid. They do a number of presentations and guest lecturing in our classrooms at the high school and at the Promise School. And we just last summer participated in a systems change model that Pinnacle has developed and worked on that allows us to work with school administrative teams. And as a longtime administrator, I would have been delighted to participate in this as an assistant principal in the schools. It gives you a real system overview of the important decisions you need to make, how those decisions have a ripple effect all the way from the superintendent's office right down through the community, and it will equip our administrative teams to do a much more thoughtful job as administrators in the school. So we have these wonderful things going on, but the core of our work with Pinnacle has been the support for mental health first aid for our staff, not only for themselves and for their students, and for the students for themselves and for each other. The students have become great supports. So I just can't say enough about the partnership. It's been just a wonderful community partner and a resource for Brockton Public Schools. And Christy and her team have put together some wonderful resources, and I wanted her to present tonight so that we could all have a look at what Pinnacle's working on and plan on moving forward as a team and as a partner with Pinnacle Partnerships. So Christy and Winnie, thank you so much for being here tonight. Anything I can?
I have a son who has mental health needs and has learning differences, and through my own experiences, I founded Pinnacle and have grown it over the years. And so I'm extremely passionate about it, so I will try not to keep you here till midnight talking about my passions around it. But being a partner with Brockton Public Schools is quite literally one of the joys of my career every day. And so I'm so happy to be here in the Brockton area, and now and also with Brockton Public Schools. So really excited to be here and building this partnership even more. So this is a just quick, history of success that we have had and some of the things that we have done together with Brockton Schools. Dennis mentioned a bunch of them. So everything from last year, we had a series for employee wellness for the staff. We had a combination of guest speakers, and then on alternating weeks, we had a peer space where anybody could come and participate in the conversation. It was to talk about challenges or to have mediation, meditation, lots of different techniques just to help out with mental wellness for the staff and for the teachers. Our systems thinking, talking about the social emotional climate within the schools, mental health certifications, family engagement. This is something that the underpinning of almost everything that we do is around family and community engagement and the importance of that as part of a healthy school community. So we talk about all of that a lot. This is a care map. It's something that I always like to talk a little bit about when I'm meeting with new folks, just to show what it's like from the perspective of a family. So if you're looking at this map, in the center would be a child that has some sort of a mental health need. And outside of that comes all of the different bubbles that it takes for a family or parent to manage that child's mental health need. So if we look straight up at like 12 o'clock, we have the health bubble. And there are all of just the regular things that you have to do for your kid, right? Go to the primary care doctor, you know the nurses, you know the dentist, vision exams. But if you have mental health needs, then you sort of also have all this health testing that ends up happening, from neuropsychs to EKGs and blood tests and MRIs, and there are all of these other things that end up happening that you're sort of plunged into all of those things. And then if you get a mental health diagnosis, which typically happens if you go down this pathway, then you get inundated with these services, which are sort of like at 2 o'clock, right? And that can range from therapeutic after-school programs to in-home behavioral teams. You start learning about mobile crisis intervention that can come into your home if you need support with your child, and what those people do. Intensive care coordination, which can be really helpful to help manage all of these bubbles, but it is more people that are now in your life. Psychiatry, if they have medication involved, then there is a relationship that ends up happening between, as a parent, you and the pharmacy, because it is not easy to get and manage medications for kids. A lot of times they're not covered, or they're out of stock. There's multiple medications. They need to be filled at different times. It's a lot to balance. Many times at about 6 o'clock, we have agency involvement. So you may be involved with the Department of Mental Health, and they have a case manager. Sometimes they also have, or independently will have DCF involvement with a social worker. Sometimes that's beneficial, sometimes it's not, right? That's the reality of agency support for families. And then of course there's insurance. Many of the families here in Brockton have Mass Health, but many families also have an insurance through their employer. So if they have a child that has mental health needs and they have 2 insurances, now they have to figure out how to manage the primary insurance plus the Mass Health as a secondary coverage. Who's gonna pay for what? Do I have premium assistance? There's lots of things to manage. And then we haven't even got to education, right? So then there's the whole education piece. Getting to school, is there an IEP? And then you have a whole team of people involved if there's an IEP involved. And then the services that can come out of an IEP, or even if there isn't an IEP or a 504, the type of need that child might need every day, the amount of people that might need to be involved to help that child to successfully access their education every single day and be healthy and in a good emotional state every day. So this care map is 68 bubbles on there. And this doesn't include if the parent who is standing in the middle here with this child also has another child who may have their own needs, other family. It doesn't include that parent has to go to work every single day. They have to get their other kids to their activities. The kids all want to play sports. Everybody needs soccer cleats, right? All of these things that are happening. And so I'd like to sort of level set a little bit with this, because parents sometimes get a bad rap for not answering the phone or not responding to the emails. And what I'd like to remind people is that if this kid is having a crisis or there is something going on, probably 40 of these bubbles are calling or emailing that parent. And so trying to keep up with that on top of managing whatever is happening with your kid at that time is an overwhelming amount of things. And as somebody who has gone through it, this map is roughly based on my life at one point with my son. And it was the most stressful time in my life. I ended up stopping work. I had to completely take care of my son. Trying to manage him at school was wild. Trying to get him what he needed was very difficult. And I'm somebody who understands systems, understands how to talk to people, understands how to make relationships with people and collaborate. Most parents don't know how to do that. And we know here in Brockton, there are many other factors that, you know, add onto that. And whether they are English speakers, English is their first or second language, what's the trauma like? Are they immigrant families? Are they worried about ICE? Are they making their bills? All of these other things. And so I'd like to start by just setting this perspective about what we're really talking about and thinking about when we're stepping into a room with a kid in a family, or talking about, you know, frustrations that come up around families, because families, 95% of families, 98% of families, parents are doing the best they can with what they have. And so I really try to remind people that we're working with or training or professional developments to remember that. Because it's really important that parents love their kids and they're doing the best that they can, oftentimes at a great disadvantage. So here at Pinnacle, we really believe in the importance of that family engagement and helping to empower and educate the community around them. And we do that in a lot of different ways, but this is sort of the core of what we do, this Pinnacle Impact Suite. I'm gonna just walk us through these 4 things that are part of the Impact Suite. 3 of them we are currently doing here in Brockton schools. 1 of them we are not yet, but maybe after you hear about it, you'll think that it's a good idea. I certainly do. So the first thing is the systems thinking, systems changing, and that is what Dennis had mentioned briefly. So I'd like to talk about, like, it's a flight simulator, but for a systems change. You kind of get the opportunity to take the risk of what it means to have difficult conversations or make change without, you know, a lot of worry. It's low risk, high reward. So the way that systems thinking works is it's a simulation of what systems change looks like. The simulation is played out together over the course of 3 virtual school years. And each year, you're working to get the people that are involved in the simulation through the stages of change, from awareness all the way to sustainability. And so the simulation is set up like in a board game almost. And the people that are in this simulation are all people that are part of the school community. So it starts with superintendent, school committee members, teachers, principals, parents, students. There are all these different representatives that are in the simulation. And together, like if we were all participating in this, we would be trying to move all of these 24 people through the stages of change over these different 3 virtual school years. You have to work together to make decisions. Everybody has to decide what that move is going to make. How do we get people to the table to move the decision along with whatever that systems change is. And it really helps people to get into the mindset of what does it mean to really change a system. It's not easy to make change. It takes a long time. It's frustrating. People feel like we can make a change this school year, and then in June, it's not done and everybody feels frustrated about that. But the reality of changing a system is that it's going to take multiple years. But having a mindset for systems change is a long-term mindset, and most people don't automatically come to that on their own. There's a whole science around change management for a reason, because it's not easy. So Dennis, do you want to talk a little bit about what your experience was like this past summer?
Yeah, it was great, because when Christy asked us, she asked John and I to put together a group of people
picture of you in frustration that day.
It was real life simulation.
Yeah, the way Christy explained it to us, same thing, was if we were going to be, you know, we're gonna assume the role of important people in the school district, and we're gonna be making these decisions, and your decisions are counted. You get to bring your decision to the table, and they tell you if it was a good decision and if you can move forward, or if you might have missed something in your decision making, and it set you back, you know, it could set you back several months, it could set you back a year. It was really impactful because I went in, you know, I was an assistant principal for a decade. I got this all figured out, I'm gonna blow through this game. And we went in there all confident, and it was great to see how much thinking we had to do along the way. I feel like if our teams in the schools that I was lucky enough to work at, if we had had this experience, I think it would have helped us to grow as an administrative team. And the thing that I took away from it was, what a great team builder for the existing building teams. It's like a live competition, you know, pitting your administrative team against another one in this friendly, wonderful competition where everybody learns something at the end of the day. So it was really impactful. I thought it was a great tool as a new, especially as a new administrator. I wish I had some exposure to something like this. But even as a veteran, sometimes we get stuck and spin our wheels a little bit. It was great to be able to revisit some of these topics and see some of the mistakes that we made along the way. And oh yeah, and you're right. I should have talked about it a little bit before I did that. Or it was set me back for months. And that's how the game is kind of set up. So just a great experience, and as a part of a building administrative team, I thought it was really a really useful thing.
So at Pinnacle, we have those simulations. We also have the ability to help implement change if somebody, or school district or Brockton wanted to put in a change plan. You know, we could start with this type of a simulation and then build a change plan out to support that type of implementation plan. But this is also great as a team builder and as a way to help people think about having a mindset for change and how to create, you know, for me and for how we were thinking about it that day, overall well-being within a school community and what that actually takes to make that happen. Anything I can clarify so far on that? Okay. So youth mental health first aid certification is something that we have been having happen throughout Brockton schools for several years. We most recently had certification for 30, I think it was health teachers and phys ed teachers back in November. And it was a great day. The youth mental health certification is really helpful for staff because it helps them to know what to do. A lot of times what I hear from feedback from people in the school is, I didn't go to school to teach SEL, or I don't know how to respond to mental health needs of kids, or I went to school to teach math, right? And so now I have all of these other things that are on me that are overwhelming, and it leads to burnout, right? And so because we believe in empowerment through education and engagement, this is a great way to engage staff. A lot of times we hear after this class, this certification class, that it's a different type of professional development day because it's interactive, we're talking to each other, and it feels like this is something that I can take to school tomorrow and use. They're learning the signs and symptoms of mental health needs, they're learning how to have difficult conversations with kids. They learn to have a different perspective about kids that maybe they just saw as behavioral before they have this class, and now they understand better that there could be trauma involved, there could be, you know, mental health needs that they were just thinking this kid, you know, just blows out of my classroom every day, that's frustrating for me as a teacher, but now they have a new perspective. So it's pretty well received. That we can see here, this was from November. 62% of the participants said this course was helpful and informative, and the remainder of the people, I can't, it's cut off what the percentage is, but about 30-something% said that this course has better prepared me for the work that I do professionally. The other options are all more on the negative side, that they feel it was beneficial and nobody selected any of those options. So everybody found some use in it. And then I just pulled out a couple of little feedback that the teachers had put in. One person said, learning how to ask the difficult question regarding suicidal thoughts was helpful. Also learning about 988 in the mobile crisis in terms of actionable resources. And then this person said the most helpful part of the course was teaching the application of information into our own professions when face-to-face with students. I think always assessing for mental health in our students is crucial, and knowing them will help me to better identify when to have a conversation with a student. So being able to get that real-time feedback from the teachers here at Brockton schools, I think is very helpful, because when you do a training, you never always know exactly how it lands. So being able to get that feedback, I think, is really helpful in terms of keeping us on course. So we also do some trauma training. So our third blue highlighted in our impact suite is around trauma training. But since we're not doing that right now, I wanted to talk just a little bit about that, but more about the resource building that we have done. So again, empowerment through education is at the core of what we do. So through the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, we have a curriculum called the Core Curriculum on Childhood Trauma. This is something that we're not currently doing in Brockton schools, but it is something that is available that we could do. It's problem-based learning. It would be in, cohorts of people where we could choose several different students that are presented to the participants in vignettes. And so they essentially learn about a student in little pieces throughout the training. So we first introduce them to a student and how the student or child is presenting. And based on that information together, they talk about what are the facts that we know, what are our hunches, what are our hypotheses, what are the things that we're making assumptions about based on what we know about this kid. And then they get another piece of information. They come back to the drawing board again and talk about what do we actually know that are facts here? What can we rule out? What can we rule in? And so based on who we're training, we can choose what the end scenario is at the end. Sometimes those could be abuse cases. Sometimes it could be that there's a death in the family. It could be that a child is from an immigrant family. So it really helps teachers, educators, other people to think about when they see different types of behaviors from students, what could be the root cause of that, instead of making assumptions or maybe not even knowing that much about trauma, because again, educators often feel that they don't have that education on their own to identify or know those things. And so this helps them to learn how to suss all of that out and really think it through. And then a big part of it is talking about secondary traumatic stress. So we talk a lot about, as the participants, educators in this case, that there's a secondary traumatic stress that we all go through when we are working with kids that have mental health needs or have trauma that they're going through that is impacting us. And so how do we deal with that? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we deal with that secondary stress, that compassion fatigue? So we also talk about that a lot. So it's a very comprehensive day. It's, again, a training that is very interactive. I believe in in-person things, and people rolling up their sleeves and getting together and working through things. So a lot of our trainings are geared in that way. We can do a lot of things virtually as well, but we tend to try to get people in the room together as much as possible. And then there are the resource guides. So in the bags that I gave each one of you, you have the resource guides. I think you all have seen these before, right? They're also available in Spanish, Haitian Creole, and in Portuguese. So they're available for everyone. And then the QR code that is up on the screen, and it's also printed on the front of the resource guide. We've actually taken the resource guide now and made it digital so that parents can access this online. It's available or will be available on the Brockton Schools website. It's also available on our website as well on Pinnacle Partnership District's website, so parents can either download this copy or they can go onto the virtual Padlet. So, if you guys wanna see the Padlet, I can have Winnie pull it up. You wanna take a look at it? Nope, you wanna pull it up?
Actually,
Yeah.
so as far as the trauma training, I think that's amazing because sometimes we don't realize it, but I know Mr. Snellgrove, I've talked to a few times, when our students also face tragedies amongst their other students, that, you know, their friends or family members, and I remember a student reaching out just saying, we really need help. We need help dealing with that. So, do you guys offer training just in general? I know our BPS, they usually, you know, have like a welcoming area to help our students when they're dealing with tragedies of, you know, when we deal with, we've had some pretty sad tragedies amongst, you know, whether it was car accidents or things happening to students within our community, to help our students not only cope with it, but be able to process what they're going through. Is that part of the training that you offer as far as the trauma training?
This
For our staff, like for teachers and things like that, just so they can help students cope with what they're going through.
So it's not so much in the moment like crisis based, but there are vignettes of students. There are actually a vignette for our students that has experienced loss based on car accident. So there are very specific vignettes so that we can choose that if, you know, if there's a specific thing that is happening within a school community or for a specific amount.
Or just even loss of a family member. We've had so many students lose like a parent.
Yes.
You know, and I've had family members actually reach out and say, does the Brockton Public Schools offer anything? And I've reached out to Mrs. Snellgrove and just be like, what can we do for this student? They lost a parent, the parent was maybe in a different country, and now they're trying to go back with their lives here. Like, is it something that we can offer the family or offer some kind of extra assistance?
Joe, the way that will typically work is John will be directly involved in a tragedy like that happens. And then based on what John and his department's findings are, we will research some of the resources that are available to the families. And if it's appropriate, we'll bring Christy and her team in to guide those families through some of this process. And directly in the school, we have the teachers that are already trained. They will be notified that a student has gone through something. And through the training, they're more hyper-aware to check in with the student and see some indicators. That's what why this training is so important. They will see if a student becomes, you know, less talkative, stops hanging out with their friends, stops playing sports that they love. And there's a number of different markers that they look for. So it's really a chain.
Oh, Mr. Snellgrove's been amazing. I
Yeah.
reached out to him when I was
He's an amazing guy.
And honestly, well, it's amazing what a lot of people don't realize what Brockton Public Schools has to offer.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't aware to the extent until I had a colleague who had a nephew that just had lost a parent in a different country. Not only did you have to go, you lost your mother, but now you're here, you're trying to process it. And so I reached out to John, and John, you know, stepped in and helped out the family and gave them whatever resources they needed. A lot of people don't realize the resources we have, and it's our job to get the word out and let them know we have that. We have the resources for you to, but like I said, John's my go-to, but you know, I got Christy and I got Winnie and I got
And
Dennis.
that's the appropriate chain, and the way it works out great, because something similar happened in a health classroom. I reached out to John. John was able to, through working with Christy and Pinnacle, so Christy and Winnie set up somebody that could go into the home, speaking the language that's spoken in the home, and address exactly what was going on, and indicate some resources that the family could access. The family wasn't totally comfortable dealing with this through the school system for a variety of reasons, and they were able to access the help they needed outside the school system through some of the resources in Brockton Public Schools. So the support goes far beyond the school day, but the chain really does work pretty well.
And I'd just like to add real quick, so Brockton is rich with resources, right? There's so many amazing people working really, really hard for our kids and our families. 100%, and I think Pinnacle Partnerships has been one of those, the backbone, if you will, right? To give us staff development and help us through everything we've already heard about. And there are other community partners too, and family and community resources when something horrific happens, and unfortunately it has happened. We reach out to them immediately, and they provide that intensive trauma support for kids and for family members. So, like I said, we're rich with resources, and there's a lot of support coming from a lot of amazing people, especially the friends and Pinnacle Partnerships.
Well, we are rich with resources, we are not rich with people who know how to work that machine. So I was able to get it up and displaying. We did try, and I can't figure out why it's not showing the webpage. So what we will do is ensure we send you the link to the tablet and you can explore. I apologize, we did try to bring it up, but for whatever reason, it's not pivoting, and we try to pivot you to the
No
blank
problem.
screen.
You can always scan it with your phones. You want to look
I
at it
just
on your
have
phone.
one last question.
Yeah.
So the certification that you offer, for the staff, is it a one day,
It can be broken up, you know.
is it a certain amount of hours?
It's 6.5 hours. This one, the trauma one, or
The one before,
the youth mental health first aid?
yeah,
It's about 6.5 hours of actual training. It can be broken up so that we can make it work for the school. So, a lot of times people will choose to do like a hybrid session where there's some pre-work. They'll do that ahead of time, and then we'll come in and teach for, 4.5 hours. They do 2 hours of pre-work ahead of time. We could do a full day session. We can break it up over a couple of different days, as long as we deliver it within 2 weeks, so that people have it fresh in their mind. So we can break it up to make sure that it's accessible for the schedules of the teachers.
Yeah, just, you're amazingly flexible and creative. We did it over, offered the training last academic year, over April vacation. So a lot of folks took advantage of that and came in, and we had grant funding to pay folks to come in to get certified.
John, all told, roughly how many would you say of our staff?
That's a good question. Well, that's what I have.
Yeah.
There's a decent number. So we actually have in-district trainers as well, like Shauna Gray, who's also,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
Carrie
have
Clark.
hundreds of teachers, Carrie Clark, thank you, who over the years have been certified.
Yeah, I'd say 300-400
Yeah.
staff members.
Yeah.
And we also do the impact of training the impact of trauma on learning, and that's been around for a while. And, it used to be a graduate level course through Leslie, and now we offer PD with the same kind of feel and vibe to it. I was in East doing that a few weeks ago, prior to February vacation, with their staff, and reminding them that, exactly like you said, Christy, the child in front of you that has explosive behavioral outbursts, don't take it personal. It's not about you, and dig a little bit deeper. So we talked about that for one of the faculty we moved over there to train.
One of the most impactful parts of this is, and I really encourage everybody to go ahead and use, what is that? QR code. Because to get on, to see this, what this has become, we just didn't have the capacity to make this as great as Pinnacle has made it. And if you go on it and see it electronically, as impressive as this is, and this is wonderful to thumb through, to see it alive and electronically is just amazing. So I can't wait for you all to see that. But the most important part of the mental health piece, I feel, is seeing in our peer mediation classes right now, the team mental health first aid training is ongoing. And to see the results of that and how those students exit that training prepared to care for the other students in Brockton High School and be a resource for their peers is just amazing. We like release these mini clinicians into the school, and they're just great resources for their classmates, and they've learned a ton. Any of our students that have gone through some difficulty on their own have some tools now to access, and we avoid some tragedy because they have these tools to manage their own mental health issues and stress issues. So it's awesome that, of course, it's great that we have the adults being trained, but now Christy and her team are training kids, and that's a really impactful piece.
Yeah, so I'll move right into that. So we do a lot of work around health equity and mental health equity. We work with lots of partners in Brockton, advancing health equity in Massachusetts work that's happening. We're part of that coalition in Brockton. We're part of the behavioral health task force. And then also we're working very closely with Brockton Neighborhood Health and the, school-based health center, they're partnering with us a lot, so that, I'm gonna talk about that with the team mental health first aid as well. And then we also offer medical debt relief, which I'd like to talk about at any point that I can, because through that, it's an access issue, right? Like, a lot of times people don't get the help that they need because they have mounting medical bills. So if we can help to eliminate that, it can help people to actually go back to their therapist again, or go to the emergency room if they need to, without worrying about racking up another bill, because we help them to eliminate that debt. But yes,
Pause for a second.
Yes.
How does that look like for a family? Like,
for the medical debt.
medical debt relief, like, can you explain to us a little bit more?
Yep, so they would get in touch with us. We have a couple of different ways that we can do this, and I don't actually think we printed anything out, but I can get the information. Yeah, we'll send it to you. So there's a few different ways. They can get in touch with us by phone. They can submit a request for us to get in touch with them through our website, and we'll call them. And then we hold drop-in office hours on Mondays and Fridays right over here at the Total Mortgage office, which is like across the street in Shaw's. One of the people at Total Mortgage is on our board of directors, and so he offers up space for us to be able to use to meet with community members. So we have people that are there on Monday mornings and Friday afternoons.
And also virtual.
And we also during that time have an open Zoom room that's available during those office hours, so people can drop in virtually or in person to meet with somebody. And some people come in and they don't have much information. Some people will come in with their bills in hand, and we help them to get all of that information, and then we work in partnership with HLA, Health Law Advocates, and they take all of that information and they actually will go back to insurance companies, to the medical billers, to the hospitals, ambulance providers, and make sure that everything was billed correctly and things weren't done. They advocate on behalf of the person to eliminate their medical debt or reduce it completely. So I think almost everyone that we have referred has had their medical debt eliminated.
And when you say medical, are we talking about mental health specifically, or does it have to be overall medical care?
It could be anything.
Any medical debt, ambulance, co-pays, elderly care, like anything in Massachusetts.
That's excellent.
Thank you. We're very proud of that, especially with what's happening currently in the world of healthcare. It's important work, so it creates a barrier to access. So if we can eliminate that and help people get the care that they need, then we're gonna try to do that. So Team Mental Health First Aid is happening now. I've been here at Brockton High almost every single morning. It's been so fun. The kids are doing a great job. They are so engaged with this program. So the Teen Mental Health First Aid is very similar to the Youth Mental Health First Aid. The teens are learning how to recognize the signs and symptoms of a friend that is in need, both crisis and non-crisis situations. We teach them how to look for the warning signs. We teach them how to ask the important questions. We teach them how to listen non-judgmentally and appropriately. And then we teach them how to get the appropriate help that they need, access the appropriate resources for themselves or for the friends that they're helping. And then the last step of their action plan is to always remember that that friendship that they have is important, and that they're not there to now be the holder of that person's mental health need, but they're there to just get them to the adult that can help and then return back to their friendship. And so it's being very well received by the students. It's held over 6 sessions, so we're meeting within one of the health classes. So there's 4 different cohorts of kids that we're meeting with. So when we're done with the sessions, we will have 41 students here at Brockton High that are going to be certified in teen mental health first aid. And these kids now will not only have that life skill, but they'll have an actual certification that they can put on their college applications, they can put it on their resumes, and they're able to help each other out and help themselves out. We've trained those 30 staff to be helpers for them, so they have more resources available. Our partners at Brockton Neighborhood Health, who are helping to fund this project, are in the classroom with us every day, so that they are actually now building the relationship with the people in the school-based health center, which actually none of the kids knew even existed in Brockton High when they started. And now they actually have a relationship that is being built with those people right in the building, so they know that they can go down there. We already have kids that are starting to utilize that service because they have an emerging mental health need. So it's already working, and we're only halfway through. So what we're seeing and hearing is that students are excited and they're engaging. They're looking forward to getting that certification. Even some kids who have had to miss a class have come up to me and said, how can I make it up? I want to make sure that I get my certification. So they're very engaged. They're definitely showing that there's a need for the information to come back to them, and that their friends need it and that they need it. And like I said, they're already utilizing these resources. So at the end of each session, I put it in your bag so you guys would have an example of it, but they all receive this exit ticket. And so it's a way for them to check in with me at the end of each session. They say how they're feeling, if they have a concern for themselves or for a friend, if that concern is immediate, that I need to check in with them today, like before I leave the building for the day, or if it's not an immediate need, but they want to talk to me privately, like within a week or so. And then they also say something that they learned, and then if there's another question. We don't always get a lot of questions. Brockton High students have been submitting the best questions. I actually have a running chart paper now, so because we keep them up. If any question that comes in, we talk about it with all of the cohorts, and their questions are amazing. So I wanted to just put a few examples up here for you. One of them was, if a friend doesn't want help, should I assume that they're in danger? A great, thoughtful question, you know, because a lot of kids don't say that they want help, so we're able to talk about this topic. What can you do if you can't get yourself to get the help that you need? Was another question. So this is a way that we, if maybe they're not asking if they, or identifying that they need a check-in, because their name is on here now, I know this is maybe a kid that has something going on, or has somebody close to them that has something going on, so I can pay attention to that. Will we learn how to re-regulate our nervous system? I was so impressed by this question. And why do you think that some people don't believe in mental health? So they're really thinking about not only what's happening in themselves or right with the kids that are with them, but they're thinking globally. We've had kids in class talk about, you know, I have a friend that I want to help, but I know that their parent doesn't believe in mental health. I'm worried that if we talk about it, that their parent is going to get upset with them. So we're having these really thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations, and coming up with things that they can utilize in the moment, and then they're asking great questions at the end, and then we're revisiting them in the following session. And we're only halfway through, so we have great momentum going. I really hope that this is something that will be able to be continued here in Brockton High, because I think this is one of those things where we can create a great ripple effect here in the school wellness, the community. All of these kids, some of them are going to graduate, some of them will continue being here, but the more kids that we can certify, the more these conversations will happen, the more they'll engage with all of these resources, because they're learning about all of them. And then this QR code is actually a Padlet that we made just for the teens. So they have access to the Brockton area resources, but this Padlet has podcasts that might be interesting for them to listen to, books that are interesting for them to read. We are, because they asked about re-regulating their nervous system, we're creating a new column in there where they can click on some TikToks of things you can do for your nervous system, or YouTube videos, so different things that they'll actually engage with for the teens. So that's how like the core of Pinnacle works. And the way that it's done in the circular way is to think about, like I said, that ripple effect. You know, if we go through all of these things in a school year, and then next school year we start over again, now we can really start to think outside the box. Do we want to maybe invite some teens that participated in the teen mental health first aid to become part of systems thinking conversation? Because we're always looking for student voice. They have great insight and perspective. so they can help think about how we can change systems, how we can do things different when it comes to mental wellness. You know, maybe their parents become part of being certified in youth mental health first aid. Now we have more helpers. So thinking about this, if we continue to do this over and over again, then we can really make a larger impact and really help the overall wellness of not only Brockton High, but the whole school districts. So that's us here at Pinnacle. Here's my information. Hit me up. I'm more than happy to clarify anything or provide any other resources that I can.
Great presentation. Mr. Gomes has a question for you.
Oh, and I'm Mike today. Well, thank you guys for being here and presenting. This is exciting, I must say. I remember when we had our first meeting, we only had this resource book, and I was super excited with this because it was the first time seeing and hearing about it. But having you guys come in and present on this for us to understand exactly how it functions, how it's working for our district is amazing. I love this. I'm a mental health clinician and I work for the Department of Correction. We have what we call a 6-slip. So the incarcerated individuals get to write on it and check different boxes for mental health, medical, whatever the case is. They can say, you know, need to see someone or whatever they want to say. And then we schedule an appointment, we check in with them, we determine whether it's urgent or not. So having this available, I know it's just for the students that you guys are training with, but if we had some sort of system like this, just maybe floating around, students can just grab one, sign it, put it in the box, you know, and then an adult can go and check in with them. That would be also amazing. Originally, when you were talking about also, before I forget, I love the circular idea, and I was thinking about more of a wraparound service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what was coming to mind, and hearing all these connection between different departments and the biopsychosocial aspect. I love hearing what you were saying about that. For the mental health first aid, initially I wasn't too clear as to what it was referring to. It was like a pool of, okay, this has happened to a student, these are the first aid applications that we're gonna do. But hearing that it's both staff and other students being trained into these are the tools you can use when you need, or these are the tools you can use for other students or colleagues, whatever the case is, really clarify the goal, the vision, the idea behind it. So I really like that aspect, and the certification is always a plus. I had a question about the debt relief community center that has been created. I believe that's all I had. I really appreciate all the resources. I do have a group of folks, I've shared this with Dr. LeBlanc, that are resources for our community as well. So I'll be more than happy to share their information when if you guys can partner or add them to this booklet for others to be able to reach out when needed. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we would love that. Thank you so much for that feedback. And we love to connect with people. I always say partnerships is in the name for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we can't do this work alone. It takes people in the schools, outside of the schools, and different organizations to really make the impact that needs to happen. So I'm always glad to connect with people.
Thank you.
You like that? Mrs. Santiago?
I mean, this is a great presentation, and I'm happy that the district is actually taking on the trainings, but also that the staff are taking the training. So to hear that we have about, what was the number? I don't know, 300 to 400 staff that already took the training. That's amazing. Speaking of the teen mental health first aid certification, that's happening now. What are the grades of the students that's in that program? Is it 9th grade to 12th, or like how does that work?
11th to 12th graders. As a pilot, we work with Jen Runiak is an outstanding health teacher up here at the high school, and she also is the peer mediation advisor. So the peer mediators, they're sort of our pilot group, and it's the peer mediators that are going through this process right now. They have a lot of experience and training working with their kids to resolve conflicts, but now taking it to the next level with this training. And with this as a pilot, what we hope to do is we hope to work with Christy and Winnie to this program embedded into our health education here at the high school. So we hope to expand this to all of our health education classes at the high school, so that every student, as they cycle through, we're going to get everybody on. So that's the goal.
The curriculum for teen mental health first aid is created for grades 9 through 12.
And so that's what I was hoping that, like you said, it's a pilot program.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yep.
that we'll pass it, we'll start with the ninth graders and they will continue to grow and learn as they navigate being a young adulthood, but also, like you said, picking up on what's going on with their friends. There's been mentions of staff. Does the staff that's involved in this, does that also include school adjustment counselors? That's part of this training or support system?
There were several, yes. John, as far as counselors, the way the trainings are usually offered is we will offer a training and it's targeted to a certain group, but if we, people, life takes over, you're busy, certain people can't make it, and then we'll backfill with we'll open it to some other staff members. So a large number of counselors have been trained.
Yeah,
A large number of health teachers have been trained, a large number of phys ed teachers have been trained. But there are, there's some math teachers that have been trained, some social studies teachers, so it's been sort of sprinkled around. But we do have, one of the things that we are going to do when this group finishes their training is we are going to get the list of all the adults that have been trained, so that the kids who have been trained can also be identified and have that be sort of its own cohort, so that all of these people, all the kids know what adults have gone through the training, and they know exactly who they can go to for immediate support. They, you and I are friends, and I know you're struggling. I know that Christy, my math teacher, has been trained in mental health first aid. We're gonna go meet with her.
So the teacher that is in the class that oversees all 4 of the classes that are in teen right now was certified in teen and youth mental health first aid with us in November. So that's helpful. For youth mental health first aid, I often say that it's good to train people who have not had that exposure, right? So crossing guards, people work in the lunchroom, other teachers, because adjustment counselors, guidance counselors, they've had some exposure to mental health, even if it wasn't all the way with their education. But other people see kids in different lights, like the crossing guard that sees the kid every single day when they get out of the car, and they have like a line on what that kid looks like every single day. If they're different, all of a sudden, now they really see that, right? So thinking about strategically, who else could have eyes on for us with our kids and how we can really have a pulse on what's happening with students.
And Chrissy, that's a great point. Some adjustment counselors have taken the courses, and the others will say this was our training. We are licensed social workers, licensed mental health counselors, etc. So they've had that training along the way. So I would love to get out to more teachers, more crossing guards, more cafeteria folk, people that see children on a regular basis might not have that exposure to that training. So they say something's noticeably different with that child. I should check in with Laura.
Any more questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. I'm actually really excited. I remember when you started Pinnacle Partners, and to see where you are now with it is just amazing. So your passion is there. So a couple of things. I always feel like it's our job to get the word out. So you had said something that a lot of the students didn't realize about the location here at the high school. So we have these resources, we have these things available for our kids. And I hear this from our families a lot of times. Oh, we didn't know we had that up at the high school, or we didn't know we had that option at the other schools. So is it possible for us to maybe have you go before like the PTOs and the PTAs, or just show the families this is what resources we have? Because a lot of times putting stuff online, unless someone is online, those are the parents that know how to find everything. But I want to reach the parents that don't know where the resources are, to be able to show them this is where it is, and we have it in multiple languages. Maybe just present to, whether it's a PTOs, PTAs, get the families familiar, and then obviously our BPS, it goes out to the staff. I think it's a wonderful product, and I would love to see maybe those 40-some odd students that are getting their certifications, maybe have them come before the school committee and let's recognize them, because they're doing something that's not mandatory. They're going above and beyond to be able to help other students, their friends, and things like that. So I would love to see if we can recognize them. Once that's all done, bring them before us, recognize them. And then that actually gives more exposure to the program. So when people start seeing what we have, not only do we have our teachers, we also have students that are taking that initiative in getting out there to show support to their friends and other students. So I would love to see if there's a way we could work with that. See if we can, it's our job to get the word out. You guys have the product. We gotta get the word out, get it out to our families. We're gonna be going into April soon, and I'd love to see this, especially where some of them only have maybe a couple of meetings left before the end of the school year. I can't believe I just said that, before the end of the school year, but they'll be here before you know it. So, but I'd love to see if we can work with Pinnacle Partners and try to get that out there.
That'd be great,
Yeah, we're happy to do that, and John and Dennis know we'll show up anywhere that you invite us. We're happy to do that. We also have ideas about that. I mean, I have always thought it would be great for us to go to open houses, places where we know when the parents are, like the end of the school year, everyone's tired. So it's a great time to do it, but I always think there's this excitement in the beginning of the school year. There's open houses, there's back to school nights, there are these sorts of things. I think these are the best times to engage with families and get information into their hands, because they're used to getting things, they're ready to receive it. It doesn't always, fall off of the radar at the end of the year like some other things do. But yes, we are happy to.
Even parent-teacher conferences, I think that whether it's multiple locations or just, a few locations, just to start getting the word out. Because I know we're focusing on the high school, but our middle school they need this just as much. The middle schoolers, it's just a lot of times if we can help them in middle school, I think it'll be easier when they get to the high school, seeing what they're going through. But absolutely, if we could work with the superintendent and Miss Oliver and Mr. Lavoie and the whole crew, I'd love to see that if that's possible.
That'd be a great idea. We can work on that, definitely. The goals has open.
You say Zach just touched on it, but correct me if I'm wrong. I understand the difference in logistical differences, but I keep hearing high school, high school, high school. What about the other schools? Now you get
In
to
terms of the youth mental health first aid, the Brockton High is the site of the pilots, right? So it's not that the other high schools we're not considering. It's as we introduce sort of outside programming into the district curriculum, we want to be thoughtful that we have a good sense of the flow. The pace the educator who's doing it is also, you heard them say, responsible for the peer mediation program. So adding another mediation set of skills to the students is really sort of the lens that it initially launched from. So just to be, and I heard Mr. Geddes as well talk about a pilot. So the idea is we're going to do it at a smaller scale with 30-some students, also peer mediators. Got to get a sense of scope, flow, sequence. How did it flow? How did it work before we then begin to talk about how do we get every graduate of Brockton Public Schools equipped with the skills to lead us, to be a good friend, a colleague, a peer, somebody who's going to be there to support as they graduate with the diploma. So the diploma isn't just you've met the academic standard, you've also, we have created a citizen, right, who's fully equipped to engage fully in the life of the community.
And to follow up on that, are we envisioning, even if it's not to a certificate level, anything for the younger kids that we have, like elementary school, start branching out more and more, so it just doesn't stay at this level, but everybody gets to talk, discuss, engage, learn about mental health and well-being.
The mental health lessons are built into the curriculum at that level, and I think what we'll find is that it lays the groundwork for them to participate in these program as they get a little older. But within the health classes, we have an entire unit that's mental and emotional health, and happy to share that curriculum with the community if you want to see it. Grades K through 5 and outstanding. It just kind of lays the foundation for them to participate in the certification program.
And Dennis, in addition, the Character Strong curriculum is our tier 1 SEL curriculum, right? So all teachers using that with our students, especially the elementary level.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, I'll be brief. I agree with Ms. Azak. Beginning of the school year is a great time to get these out there equipped. I know, I remember when I was in high school, I was so excited to get the mail. And there were these forms that parents had to sign for me to bring back to school. So if these can tag along to get home as well for us to keep as resources, that would be amazing.
This is the reason why I wanted to sponsor this subcommittee, right, for mental health and well-being, because there was never one. And I think this is to have the round table discussion, how we help our student educators, families, to get more information out there, because nobody really be educated unless you're going into this career path to learn about mental health. I think one thing that I learned in my profession as a career when I was going to nursing school is to always know you will always meet someone that has a mental health. You know, no matter what area of nursing you'll go, you will have that impact, and somebody will have an impact on you when it comes to mental health. And I think this is unbelievable work that your team is doing and partnering with us just to help our students. Just the ability to save one student from committing suicide, we know we did something, right? And I think this is what we want the subcommittee to be, to basically get the resource out there and see how we can guide and protect our students, because there's so many other situations that's happening with social media, bullying, and in any way possible we can have that hard conversations with our students to know you're not alone. We're here for you, you're supported, you're important, your life is valuable, and we are here to support you. And I think this is what this subcommittee is about, is basically getting a resource out there and helping, and having those hard conversations. And I think that's what's most important, because the taboo out there, whether we like it or not, is out there, right? And we just have to change one mind at a time. And I truly appreciate the partnership that you guys have with us, and definitely move it towards middle school and elementary, because some are, middle schools, they do think about that. You know, that they deal a lot with social media and bullying, and they're having those thoughts. And I think as we can catch them early and have those conversations and support them to have an adulthood, right? And we don't want to lose them at such a young age, and we have in the city. And I think that's something that we really need to focus on and see how we guide them as little as elementary and middle school to basically get a chance to come to Brockton High and graduate and have a life. So I think that's what we need to do as a community, and just like guide them and help them at any way we can. And I appreciate you guys today and getting this going. Presentation was excellent. Thank you very, very much. Mrs. Azar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be a good idea to invite Pinnacle Partners? Because they've only come before us as far as I can remember during the subcommittee. Would it be a good idea to add them to an agenda just for a quick presentation, so those that watch the school committee can actually see the product that they offer as we, just even if it's just this is what we have, this is where you go online, because I believe you've only come before the subcommittee as far as I can remember. So it might not be a bad idea, because you're going to give your report before the committee of the whole, but at least have them just come from maybe just a 10-minute quick summary. This is what we have. This is you can reach out to us. We have it in multiple languages, and this is what's available online. To at least just get the ball rolling to educate some of our some of the families as to what we offer, because it's only been before the subcommittee. So I mean, that's just a recommendation. Yeah.
We'll speak to the chair, vice chair, and the superintendent.
Oh,
We'll
yep.
get that on.
Okay, because
on
you're
the
the chair of
agenda.
this committee.
Madam Chair. We'll get that done.
Okay, thank you.
We'll definitely, I think it's a great idea.
Just to bring it before the committee of a whole, because this is the second time I've seen this, and I just know some members haven't. So it might not be a bad idea to just present it to the committee of a whole, and to just, and those that are gonna be in the audience and that are watching, because again, it's just word of mouth, and that's how we're gonna start getting the word out. Because we can put it online as much as we want, but if people are not going on there, we want this to take off. You put a lot of work into it, and it's benefiting our families and our students. I say if we can help you out a little bit, I'd love to invite you.
Yep, we'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Definitely. Any other questions? Good?
Thank you guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, appreciate it. You can stick around if you want. We're gonna go to, number 4 on the agenda, review and discuss of suggested updates, edits to the Brockton Public School Bullying Prevention and Intervention Plan.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So at the last meeting, we had talked about the need to update. No, you don't have to. You feel free. It's just Christy, you're
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Yeah. Her clicker is so at the last subcommittee meeting, there was initial dialogue on sort of me reviewing and bringing to the subcommittee a proposed plan with edits. And so what you have in your packet should be 2 versions of the same thing. One will be like kind of the final product with suggested edits accepted. And the other, you'll see more of a track change version, so you know exactly what was changed. What I will say is most of it is cosmetic, housekeeping, aligning with new titles, new programs. It made reference to a mental health resource guide, and now we have a new instructional support team and multi-tiered system of support in place in the buildings, which was not present 5 years ago. So we updated it with some, I'll just wait some results. Books for days, I promise you that. Okay, so what you have in front of you is a proposed draft that shows an updated plan. I will note the committee as a whole did update the bullying policy, I want to say in 2023, ahead of our tiered focus monitoring visit from Nessie, which one of the things they do look at is the up-to-dateness of our policy. So what you have is the accompanying plan, which goes over the resources, curriculum, the investigation process for when we receive complaints of bullying. So this is more of the prevention and intervention plan versus the policy which the committee did revise, I want to say back in 2023. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
And so I'm happy to answer any questions or sort of walk you through some of the changes. I'll sort of defer relative to her preference, but from those edits, you'll see adjustments relative to titles, roles, and updating relative to current programming versus past programming.
Any questions? No questions. I think it's, do you have any questions? Okay. I appreciate this. I know we've been working behind the scenes trying to figure this out and putting it really easy for parents to understand, and also even a child, you know, one of our students can read this and know the consequences of the intervention and plan for them. I think this is perfect. I think this is something that has been needing to be updated since 2023. A lot has been changed since then. I think this is, love it. I really appreciate the hard work that has been put into it with the cyberbullying and then basically the reporting and the obligation to notify others. It's really nicely put together. I think this is really easy to follow and implement.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gold.
Not so much about the changes itself, but is this something that the committee has to vote to adopt the changes, or?
No.
No.
So
Okay.
it doesn't. I mean, you're welcome. I mean, you certainly can, right? There's nothing that prevents it. But the policy itself makes reference to the district
Okay.
implementing.
I see.
And this is the plan then that makes reference in the policy that we will implement.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is a regulatory requirement that is updated every 2 years. So that's why we did miss the 20. But you know, bit going on that year, and so we are back on track with the March of 26, and then we will make sure it's on the flag for your agenda every 2 years.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
The question that I have is not so much about the plan, but it's just to understand like the bullying that's happening out of schools. Do we have any data to kind of indicate how many are being reported? And for the ones that are being reported after they are investigated, how many are supported or not? I'm not sure if this is the right meeting to ask those questions, and I don't even know if you have the data available.
I do actually. So
Can
not
we
only
talk
am
about
I your
that?
assistant superintendent of Unified Student Services, I'm also your district civil rights officer. So I don't have the data because what we would need to do, there's a number of investigations currently underway. But I did propose, for discussion of the subcommittee, proposing a date for late May, early June, which I can easily prepare not only the bullying outcome, but any of our Title IX, Title VI, harassment, discrimination, sort of an overview of like kind of the year snapshot of here are the total number of reports received, here are the number of actual investigation or complaints that went forward, here are those that were sustained and those that were not sustained. Just so you have a sort of overview. One of the things that, to be clear, is difficult to parse out bullying is, remember at the first meeting we talked about removing the need, and the plan reflects the removing of the need to fill out the bullying complaint form. Because what we were finding was by just looking at it through the bullying lens, our sort of the practical side of the day-to-day of our school is we were then missing the intersectionality to civil rights protections or any other potential violation, right? So it could be bullying, it could also be sexual harassment, it could also be discrimination, right? So that's why, so what I can do is say outcome relative to which of the policies, to then tell you the total, I guess, the number of investigations, and then where we found findings across which, and that has been a significant shift for the district, particularly our assistant principals and our investigators. They've undergone significant training over the last 3 years, not only in investigation skills and techniques, but then in analysis. So once you've done your investigation, how are you taking the fact pattern that you found and then comparing it against what the committee's policy is relative to bullying, what their policy is relative to harassment, discrimination, or any Title VI or potential Title IX violation. So the data is there, I just need to compile it, and we have a couple of outstanding cases just to wrap up that then would lend to that yearly summary, but that's probably not a bad thing I could do for you next time, and then come better prepared with the actual numbers. I think the other thing, to your point, and it goes back to Claudia, the comments earlier from Anna relative to getting the word out, is we also sometimes have a misunderstanding. So parents will call, talk us through the concerns they have, and they say, my child's being bullied. And I'll say, okay, so what happened? Well, the student A was really mean to them that day, right? And so I think what we also find ourselves doing is helping parents to understand that under law, bullying means this, and it needs to, there are some, now I'm not suggesting it's not bad behavior, I want to be really clear. We're not letting kids get away with bad behavior, but how it's defined matters. And so my office tracks every single investigation relative to students in the entire district. We ensure compliance, we then will do outreach every so many days to ensure that the process is moving as the policy says should be expedited as quick as possible. So we would certainly bring that back next time. And I think the other thing is there are some instances, which I think I do have the ability to give you, of how many cases were brought as a concern that did not become complaints. And I think you'll notice that that number is significant, and that's our first opportunity many times to engage with a family who might be having a hard time around what is happening. I actually have a family coming in on Thursday to do intake about their concerns about their child's experience in their school. So we're going to come in, the family, the student and the parent will come in and meet with me, we'll go over what they've been going through, and I'll talk to them about sort of here are the different pathways that concern can take. Does that make sense? So I can bring it more prepared, and I can actually make it a bit broader than just bullying to all of our civil rights investigations.
I think in addition to that, too, I would like to see like the trends of locations. So like I've been visiting some of the schools, and in one school in particular, the principal said we would like to have a camera in the hallway, like this particular stairway, because that is when we're not able to see what is being done. So like, are these incidents of the bullying happening while they're taking the bus? Is it happening online? So if, I don't know if you'll be able to like pull in your data, if you can tell like where the locations they're reporting that these incidents are happening.
Sure. We may be able to. I may not have that data for every single one.
Right?
Right. Well, I think what the other thing I'll mention to that point is and we trained our principals on the same way of thinking. when we encounter any violation of a child's right, our obligation as public educators is to stop the conduct immediately, remedy its impact on all parties, and then prevent its reoccurrence, right? And I think what I heard you say is principals advocating most likely around number 3. So if there's a particular part of their building, right, that they know, during passing time, I need to make sure in order to ensure and prevent any potential reoccurrence of any other student experiencing that, I might need additional coverage there, or they might need a camera. So I think that what the principals across the 25 schools have a very strong understanding of the things that they're managing in their building, and where those hot spots of the building might be, or where, for example, we had an incident at one of our elementary schools. We were processing with the principal, how do we best prevent its reoccurrence? And it became, I'm going to ask all my teachers to step into the hallway during bathroom passing time so that there can be no nonsense in the hallway. So each individual principal, I would argue, has a very strong command of their building, because ultimately the way that we set up the structure is our assistant principals are our primary investigator and our principals are our primary decision maker. So every single case that goes through that school passes the principal's desk. And again, we've kind of drilled in them this obligation that they have to stop, remedy, and prevent. And so it's not just enough to stop it, not just enough to make it okay, but in terms of an organization, how are we actively preventing future students from potentially experiencing the same thing? And so to your point, I don't know that I can do for every bullying where it happened, but I can tell, what I probably can speak to is the general trends. For example, we know during passing and unsupervised time, we have a higher percentage of reports than
Like
supervised
recess
time.
time.
You got it. So when there's 2 grades at the same time and they weren't supposed to be, and then you get the older kid with the younger. So we do, I think, have a strong sense of where, and I think what wouldn't surprise you probably is the more flexible the time, the more likely we do have for these other instances. That doesn't mean things don't happen in classrooms, but to your point, the data is telling us increased supervision at recess and ensuring passing time coverage. So to that, principals probably had some stuff happen in that stairwell to be like, if I could just have a camera, I could actually see, and it doesn't become a he said, she said, or I didn't do what you did. But I'm certainly happy to sort of talk about some of those themes when I come back next time, and then I can have the data to hopefully back it up for you.
Any questions?
Like with the data that you're gonna bring to us, is it also gonna show us like what group of kids are being targeted the most? Is it individuals with I wouldn't say look, but like what type of students are we seeing that are being targeted the most? Right.
I'm not sure I'm understanding.
Like, are you saying like newcomers, or are you saying like
Well,
kids with this, like on the IP?
Exactly.
Or are those being more targeted than?
I mean, I think based on the, if you don't mind, based on the actual complaint itself, I think we can identify trends, if that's what you are asking. And I think that some of those develop when you see what kind of complaint it is. So I think some of that will emerge naturally from the kind of complaint.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure like when you come into us, that you kind of give us a picture so we can understand like what is really happening in our district. Like where is it happening? Like what type of students are we noticing that is happening the most with? But that is the students that I'm
Yeah.
Sure. I'll try my best. I want to be thoughtful to that. I want to be able to speak exactly to your question, generalities. I would hate that any parents listening to kind of hear. I don't know, to be fair, this is now my 4th year in Brockton, and it's the 4th year in the role. I'm not, I'll double check, but we're not seeing particular groups of kids. What we see more prevalent is the location versus, so it's like opportunity versus target. Now that doesn't mean we don't have certain instances, for example, Title VI or Title IX investigations, right? Title IX has to do with sort of gender equity in the environment, and so we do have some instances where There seems to be a general trend in our Title IX investigations that the recipients of the, for example, sexual misconduct generally is a female. Now that doesn't mean that it's only females. It's like our data would tell me that I do have sort of a female-heavy impact in terms of who's receiving that trend. We don't necessarily. It's like, but like we also know that we have had some claims under, for example, Title VI, which alleges, for example, we've had buildings asserted to like disproportionately discipline certain groups of kids that we have looked at comprehensively, and our attorneys and our investigators have found no such trend exists. It might be that particular parent's perception that their daughter received harsher punishment than the boys did. And so while that might be her feeling, when we take every complaint seriously. So when they say to us, you know, your school is disproportionately impacting girls, we go, whoa, that's a pretty significant claim. Let's look into that, right? Or you're impacting, you know, kids who speak a different language, and you say, oh, wow, okay, let's look into that. And what we have found through at least two that I know of comprehensive Title VI investigations into the practice of the district, they've not found that to be factual. They went back to that individual person's feelings about how their case was adjudicated. So I'll try my best. I'm also happy to always speak to any of you offline as well and really review with you with a little bit more detail without, again, giving confidential information away, but some of the trends and patterns that we do see that we do take some action around. And you'll see that through handbook edits or tightening of the rules, right? So if we're seeing some confusion around the way the kids are interpreting X rule or Y rule, right, then we can easily go back and make those adjustments to the handbook to make sure everyone understands the rules. So that's part of where you also, in the spring, early summer, we'll also see the proposed handbooks for next year, which will have some edits to, for example, the discipline code, based on our year living code and what we need to adjust or edit. So we do the same thing, for example, with our discipline. We're looking for trends and patterns to say how can we make it more accessible and how can we restore kids' places back into the community so discipline does not become sort of a pipeline to another, rather get them back in school and a part of their community versus that school to prison pipeline that we hear about. So happy to come back. And also, I don't want you to feel like you have to wait either. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to Priya or myself, and we're happy to meet with you and review anything you'd like to review. But yes, I can certainly prepare for that May-June meeting. That overview data as your civil rights officer, that actually may be helpful for the community as a whole, actually, for you to hear that as a year-end summary of here's the year so far. Or here's what we did this year, and as we head to this year, here are some adjustments we're making.
That's a great idea to do an end-of-year report as a regular meeting, just to see what we have encountered and how we solve certain situations.
And I think it's also really important for you all to know that your policies are implemented with fidelity and that we take what you pass seriously. And so that becomes the policy, right? That becomes the lens in which we use to now judge whether or not something has happened, or there's been a violation.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We'll move on to number 5, other business. I's meeting date for late May, early June 2026 for purpose of reviewing SEL screening data and reviewing MTSS programming for 2025-2026.
Yes. So you might remember from our earlier presentation, the district's SEL multi-tier system of support involves 2 universal points of screening in the fall and the spring. We screen all of our students on potential mental health or SEL challenges, and then from there, enter with parental consent, then sort of do more in-depth screening and testing, and then put kids into sort of 6 to 8 week intervention groups based on what their screening suggested. And so when we were thinking about and I were talking about topics for the spring, we thought, you know, we're in the middle right now of our spring screening window, so I don't have the data right now to say here's where, but we will have that by May, June, to be able to come back and say here were the fall screening results, the spring screening results, here are the number of students we then served through our multi-tiered model, as well as giving you an overview of not just Pinnacle, but you heard John talk about Character Strong, you heard Dennis talk about our health curriculum. We have school-based programming that highlights our multi-tiered system of support for mental health and social emotional support for kids. that we'd happy to come and give you a year in review summary. What the screening data is showing us, where the areas of concern are, for example, middle school girls are experiencing a level of stress that's disproportionate to their real cares. So back to your question, we don't just rely on, for example, investigation data. We look at that screening data to also help us figure out programming and intervention. So I thought, as we were brainstorming, that might be a good way to kind of end the year with the subcommittee, to give you an overview of what this year was like, and then maybe cue you up for next year of some things we're thinking about piloting, and some other programming that we're putting in place for the 26-27 year.
So that end of May, you want to do it towards like the end of May?
Yeah, I just said May, June, just depending on timing. So I wanted to make sure we also give the SEL team the window of time to be able to get, like, I want their focus to be on screening data, turn around with the SACs, groups up and running. Okay, take a deep breath, now we're ready for this, right? Because those spring groups go right up until the second week of June. But if that works for you, I'm also open to any others. That was just my suggestion, but I'm open to any other topics or information you'd like to receive at that meeting. We're happy to add it in.
Perfect. Any suggestions? You guys are good with the end of May?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Would May or June work better for you guys?
Probably the first week of June.
You want first week of June? Okay.
Just to be fair, it's going to be April in a minute. And then we have to vacate. I'm just thoughtful of like the reality of closing out the year. Guys, it's different. Very early June would be ideal for our team.
We'll do the second week of June, because
Okay.
we'll look for that one, because I'll be away from my daughter's graduation, so I want to make sure it's a
No worries.
So
It should be.
so I'll make sure like the second week of June, we'll work on it, the
Okay.
schedule, and I'll send it to the members, to make sure.
I
Because
wanna make
I'll be
sure-
after the graduation, it's my
I'm
graduation.
excited. Congratulations.
Well, even Brockton High, I think the graduation's
Oh, that first week is busy.
Yeah, I'll be away that weekend, so yeah, so we'll do that. Perfect. So other items for discussion, presentation for May, June 26th. Any ideas members wants to bring up?
I could add the year summary.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll bring that too. And we can see about bringing other partners that we have that's working with us. I know Sabuda has some programs. I know the Caribbean Women Association also has groups that work with our teens at Brockton High for the dating violence prevention. So I think that would be a good time for them to come and speak to us too, and how their programs are running and the benefits and working with the school district and how that's going too, what they've been preventing and helping their teams deal with, dating violence and all that issues that they go through. Definitely we can see what other partnerships that we can bring. The round table, that's what I'm gonna call it, the round table. Love it. And then also plan like, dates for like award meetings, to have also those partners to come and talk. Maybe those are the times we'll have pamphlets, and we can see about either getting the CAO, like our students recording it for YouTube and having it different language they can translate. So we can work on that to bring it to different wards and have those type of conversations to really spread out the information, the resource out there. We can work on that too. Any last items or discussions? Good. Thank you, everybody. This was a great meeting.
My first subcommittee meeting that, this was very productive and very informative, so.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah, I'm
We
excited.
appreciate you. A motion to adjourn? Go ahead.
What am I supposed to do? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, meeting is done.
Those in favor?
Oh.